developing psychology, developing skills, developing process and systems takes a bit more of an investment. And very often people are so busy chasing their tails and chasing the quota, they overlook them. I don't think it's intentional. It is very often unintentional.
This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 342, 133 Selling Skills, an interview with Justin Leigh.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today we meet Justin Leigh. He's a high-performance business and sales leadership coach. And today we're going to discuss about how sellers and sales managers engage, motivate, and accelerate the performance of their business teams. We do this by focusing on a strategy that Justin calls 133. Today we're going to focus on psychology, selling skills, and the power of building a repeatable business process. And why are we doing this? Because if you're looking to get promoted or to take your profession to the next level, this is the episode for you. And so, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Justin. Are you ready to babble?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Pat.
Justin, you and I have some common friends in the UK. We do a lot on the LinkedIn.
Yes, we do. We do.
We were chatting at great length last week, and because I was going through your LinkedIn, and I saw that you were at 3M for many, many, many years.
It felt like a long time, actually. About 18 years, Pat. Yeah. Yes, 18 years.
And how different is that's got to be working for, what is 3M, a Fortune 100 company?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
It's way up there, versus selling in a small company. So my first question for you really is when it comes to account executives and people like you who work for these big companies, what advice do you have for people in this situation in regards to getting ahead? Is it you clearly was able to find success within the company, but yes, a lot of people find that maybe it'd be better for them to leave and to go back and forth. And I wonder if you could shed some light from your experiences, what you would advise people working for big companies like yours.
That's a great question, Pat. So I was at 3M for 18 years. And the reason I stayed so long was because I had the equivalent of probably about 8 different careers. So I started in their dental division as a salesperson. And within a year of being at 3M back in 2000, within a year of being at 3M, they acquired another dental company. So I was immediately in a position where actually I was helping with integration. I was learning about a second business, even while I was in the first business at 3M. And very soon I ended up as a key account manager, managing the large strategic dental accounts, but also their distributors. So very quickly, my career at 3M transitioned into what was a second position. And then I moved into sales management. And from there, I moved into a new business division. So I was then in medical. I then went from medical to an IT accessories business where I became a business manager. I then moved across to a commercial graphics business where I was, again, a business manager. Then back into healthcare where I managed an IT healthcare business. Then I moved to a commercial leadership role across a number of businesses in the healthcare setting. And then finally, my last position with 3M was managing one of their largest businesses in the UK as a general manager for one of their medical businesses. So my advice to people, first and foremost, is really have this open mind about where your career can go. Because if you told me at the age of early 20s that I would be managing one of the largest businesses for a Fortune 100 company in the UK, I probably would have doubted you. I wouldn't have agreed it was possible. But having this open mind about what you can do and the skills you can develop, and starting to develop those skills as early as you can in your career, was really pivotal to my progression and success.
You said there were 2 things.
I did, yes. So that's the openness to knowing your own potential. The second thing then is that ability to start to develop the skills early and almost before you get the position. Because that's one of the things that I've learned over my career, and I'm sure you've had this same experience, Pat, that we're never quite ready for the next position. So starting to develop the skills, think about, the identity that you have for yourself in advance of getting that position is really important, because then when you finally do achieve that role or the role comes up, you're in a really positive, strong position to be able to make the move. Whereas if you haven't done the work in advance, there's a great term that comes up a lot in business, and that's the imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people find themselves struggling with that. And I've had that in the past myself. It's why, I try to really change my approach and adopt this skill development in advance of getting any position, because then you feel in the right frame of mind. You feel as if you deserve that position when it happens, and you can move into it.
I think this is a really great understanding, because when I was at Bell Labs, that's how we as managers saw folks before we promoted them.
Yes.
Are they already working at that level?
Yes.
Now, people sometimes would think, look, I'm working at that level, I'm not getting paid. And
Yes.
maybe get huffy about that.
Yes.
But you also have a really good point, too, is if you're not ready for that and you get promoted, all of a sudden you get this feeling like, oh, heck.
Well caught, Pat. Well caught.
I can't believe I'm in this job. I am an imposter.
Yeah.
And I've had that, too,
Yeah.
many times in my life, where people will go, oh, you look so confident. I'm like, but reality, I'm shaking in my boots.
Yeah, and there's only so much, there's this phrase, isn't there, fake it until you make it. Well, I'm not a fan of that. I am a fan of mental rehearsal, seeing yourself performing in the role, taking the small steps you can in advance of getting the position. That's when actually there is some value in trying to get yourself into the right frame of mind in advance. But you have got to do the work. You can't fake it till you make it forever.
Now, and it makes it so easy to promote people when you have seen them perform results. You actually measurable results, like, oh yeah, I gave them that task once. They had no problem with it.
Yes.
Well, I saw they were in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And they were able to overcome. So I'm pretty confident that if we promote them, or like in your case, we move them to another project, which is probably a promotion or maybe a lateral.
Yes.
That they're going to be successful. And as a manager, that's really important to you, because that's what you're measured on.
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. And also, it's in everybody's best interest, isn't it? It's in the organization's best interests. It's in your best interest as someone in the organization. If you're moving into a leadership position, it's in the team that you're going to manage. It's in their best interests, because we all want to succeed, and we all want people around us to succeed. And the best thing you can do is get yourself prepared in advance.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Pat, because that was my experience in the corporate world. And then 3 years ago, when I set my business up, as I was transitioning out of 3M, I was at the same time retraining to become an executive coach. So I did those two things in parallel, so that when I set up my coaching and consulting business, I wasn't just kind of trying to fake it till I make it. I had been through a structured program that taught me the skills and helped me to integrate not only the business skills I had, but then the coaching skills that I needed for moving into a coaching and consulting role. And I was able to then work with what we call pro bono clients, a bit like, lawyers sometimes do pro bono work, but as part of the accreditation, you work with some pro bono clients. It means that you develop the skills in advance of when you go out in your business. And it's kind of been a bit of a running theme through my career, and one that, when I look back, actually has served me really well. And if people could really adopt that mindset, don't resist doing the work in advance of getting the position, embrace doing the work in advance of getting the position, because then when you get it, you're infinitely more qualified and confident, but then you perform straight away. Right off the bat, you are in a position where you can deliver.
You bring up a really good point here, because there's a trend, finally, I think, in business where bosses should be coaches.
Yes.
Right. So this is something that you were already doing at
Yes.
3M, that you were able to take into your coaching, into your coaching business.
Yes.
Is that, and this is all part of this whole sales enablement conversation that we hear about all the time. That we need to train our people better. We need to get them on board. Isn't that what you found? And isn't that what you would recommend managers, that it's just not about holding people's feet to the fire about making their quota?
Absolutely.
Right? Because I think that's this myth that's out there of like, well, if we give people a quota and all people are motivated by money, so they're going to want to get commissions, like they should just be able to do that, and I shouldn't have to be wasting time coaching them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%, Pat. So the way I've kind of broken it down as I've started to work with more and more clients is that there are three areas that, as a leader of a team, there are three areas to consider how you work with your team and take a coaching leadership style towards it. But the first is helping your team to adopt the right psychology, attitude, and outlook on the work. And as a leader, you've got a fantastic opportunity to influence your teams in that area. But get the psychology right first. Get people thinking positively, connecting with a vision, understanding why they do their work, recognizing that the customer is at the heart of everything you do. That's all about the psychology. And then once the psychology is in place, start to look at the skills that the team need. So what skills do they need to successfully grow the business? Well, they're going to need to be able to build rapport and develop relationships. They're going to need to be able to question and listen effectively. They're going to have to know the product portfolio or your service portfolio so that they can align that portfolio with what the customer's told them that they need. They're going to need to be able to gain commitment and follow through on those commitments with the customer. And then the final piece, the third piece, is about systems or process. So once you've got the psychology right, you've got the skills developed, then it's about putting in place reproducible processes and systems that people can go to again and again so that they know they're going to be able to deliver those results. And they're the three areas that they sound really obvious when we talk about them, but very often there'll be one or maybe two of those key areas that people just haven't really focused in on. And once you can show leaders how to do that with a coaching approach, then everything seems to unlock and growth becomes almost inevitable in a business.
And it seems to me, from how you lay these out, they should be done almost in this order.
Yes. They're the order. They absolutely, Pat. They're the order that I train and coach them into an organization.
Why aren't people doing this now?
Why are they doing it now?
Why are they not doing this now? Why isn't this? I mean, look at this list. This seems to make a lot of sense, right?
Yes, it does. I'll tell you why I think it is, Pat. You said something really interesting before I talked through those three principles. You talked about just issuing a quota, right? That's a really easy way for a manager to run a team. Here's your quota. It's yours to deliver. Away you go. And then I'm just going to check in with you on the quota. How are you getting on against the quota? How are you getting on against the quota? Well, the quota is, I'm going to be preaching to the choir here, but you'll know this, Pat. A quota is a lagging metric. So the quota, or your performance against the quota, happens after the work is done. Now, the three areas I talked about are all leading metrics. So they are the actions or the approach or the principles that you can put in place with teams that will deliver the result or the quota. And very often, my experience, very often, sales and business leaders, because of the intense pressure they are under, because they are constantly asked to review numbers, look at quotas, look at performance, and all of those performance metrics tend to be lagging, they lose sight of what's really important, and they want the quick fix to deliver the quota. And actually, developing psychology, developing skills, developing process and systems takes a bit more of an investment. And very often people are so busy chasing their tails and chasing the quota, they overlook them. I don't think it's intentional. It is very often unintentional.
Are there leading metrics that sales managers can look at and make and use for decision making?
Yes, definitely. And there's lots of them, Pat. So, one of probably the most commonly used metrics would be activity rates, activity levels. How many calls have you done? How many customers have you spoken to? And that tends to be quite a common go-to leading metric. But there are a lot more leading metrics that probably are as valuable, if not more valuable. Things like opportunity size and opportunity number, and number of contacts made with potential clients, size of overall pipeline, and then they're all kind of quantitative metrics, so numbers based, but then qualitative metrics are really important as well. How effectively has the salesperson or the business person engaged with a client? How long do they spend identifying needs? How much value are they creating in the process? So there's lots of ways to break this down. And I have tools that I use with clients. I've got a principle and an Excel tracker that I use that I call a 133. And it talks about one specific goal, which may well be your lagging metric, but then it looks at 3 priority streams of leading activities. And they will be different for every role and every business, but the principles will be the same. And within each of those streams, there'll be 3 key activities that drive those streams. And when you boil it down to that really simple approach, right, we have one goal, we have 3 key streams of activities and 3 activities per stream, people get really clear really quickly on how to deliver growth in a business.
I love this. This is awesome. 133. You have an example of this where you're working with a client where you've been able to implement this successfully?
Yes, yeah, lots of occasions. It's my go-to tool for getting sales teams clear on how they will deliver in their roles and within the business. Yeah, so I've got lots of. I'd happily share. I have a blank tool and an example tool, Pat. So I'm happy to share that link with you, and we can put it in the link for the comments on here if people are interested.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
I'll share that with you offline, and we'll make sure it's in the comments for the podcast listeners.
Absolutely. But I was really looking for, do you have like an anecdote? Do you have a quick story without anonymous names?
Yeah. So I mean, I work with lots of companies on this kind of area, but what I would find, without mentioning a name, but I have a business I've worked with, a great company, actually, quite a small company in the Cambridge area in the UK here. And I've been working with this team for about 2 years. I work with the business owner and his board of directors. And most recently, they've brought on a business development person because they can see the opportunity to grow in the business. They've already been growing we've managed to increase the business by 50% in the last 2 years. So it's been a really successful period for them. They've put this business development manager in place, and I'm doing some coaching with the business owner to help him manage that person as effectively as possible. And we've put this 133 principle in place, and he is now using it. And it's all about building a pipeline of opportunity for the business. It's about reaching key decision makers and making sure that he's mapping the organizations he's engaging with. And then it's about the activity rates to make sure that he is nurturing those relationships and taking people through a sales cycle. And they're the 3 areas that we've focused in on. And the power of doing something like that, Pat, is not only that it gets people focused on the priorities and what they need to deliver, but it also gives them the autonomy to then push back into the business if they start getting distracted or pulled into, pet projects of someone in the business, because they can really clearly go to their expectations document, this 133, and say, well, actually, I don't see where that fits with this. And that is so powerful because it very often means that the business owner will say, you're right. You need to stay on course, stick with your 1-3-3 plan. So I found that that's, whether it's a large organization or a small organization, the power of that level of focus is really, really valuable.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll definitely share this with you, Pat. I think you'll enjoy it as well.
Yeah, make sure. So if you step back and you look at this consulting business that you've started, what do you find most rewarding in it?
I think it's being able to. There's a number of things. I was just laughing to myself because I was just thinking that it's being able to go into businesses with a completely fresh perspective. And very often, you'll be aware of the conscious competency model. You go into a business, there'll be people that are unconsciously incompetent. So there are just things they don't know. And being able to share principles with whether it's business owners, boards of directors, heads of sales teams, or sales teams themselves, to just help them see the things they can't see, the opportunities that are right in front of them that they can't see, and then enable them to be able to go and make the best of those opportunities. I think that's the piece that is most rewarding for me, because there's an argument to say they would never have found those growth opportunities without that conversation. But so often they're the things that when we start to talk about them, they become obvious. But until that point, they're just blind spots for organizations. So I think helping people see the blind spots is really the most rewarding piece for
me. I love it. So if you could give our listeners one piece of advice they can go and take action on this week, what would that be?
I'd go with those 3 key areas. Think about, for your business, for your team, and for yourself, there'll be one of those 3 areas will be resonating with you. The psychology and the attitude. Have you got the right attitudes in your business? That might be you, it might be your team. But do people see opportunity? Do they see possibility? Are they looking for the solution rather than the barrier? Because it's such a huge gap for so many organizations. We just take for granted that people are what they are, and that's not the case. Everybody can be helped to see the opportunity. And if it's not psychology, if that's right in your business, then what skills need developing? What are the sales skills? And most of the companies I deal with, one of the first areas we go to is this ability to listen. The ability to truly listen to clients, to team members, to peers, because once you cultivate this skill of listening, it serves you in so many areas of your business. It's a fundamental of building relationships and rapport. It helps with client engagement. It helps with taking a coaching leadership style. It underpins so much. So think of the skills that need developing either for you or for your team. And then the final piece, I talked about system process. We can't do things consistently and deliver results reproducibly if we don't look at systems and process. And for a lot of people, this is a bit of a turn off. They kind of systems and process. Well, it doesn't have to be complicated. Simplify it as much as possible. But think about how you put in place the right structure, process, system to make sure your team are clear on how to reproduce results. That would be, I know you asked for one thing, Pat, but I'd say think about those 3 areas and what's the one thing that is, most in need in your business.
Awesome. So again, if people wanted to find you online, Justin, where would they go?
So my website is it's focus for number 4 growth. So focus4growth.co.uk, because I'm UK based, but I work with clients all over the world on Zoom. They could go there. I'm on LinkedIn, so it's Justin Leigh, Leigh. So look me up on LinkedIn. I'm very happy for connections from people. Love to expand my network. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. Blimey, there's no end to it, Pat. I have something that might be useful for people. I have a YouTube channel where I post all of my video content from the last 2.5 years. So there's lots of free access to leadership, high performance, sales and influencing principles. So that's literally, if you go onto YouTube and youtube.com/focus for growth, you'll find the channel there.
Awesome. Justin, thanks for visiting us on Sales Babble. This has been fun.
My pleasure. Thank you, Pat. And there's a couple of other links that we'll put in the comments, if that's okay, that might be useful assets for people, whether that's some sales tools or access to programs.
Consider it done.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's been really great talking to you.
To learn more about our guest, go to the show notes at www.salesbabble.com, and you can find this episode and all the show notes for past episodes right on the homepage. Now, one of the best ways people hear about Sales Babble is from listener reviews. If you could go to your favorite podcast app and leave us a 5-star comment, that would be really great, because word of mouth is how podcasts spread. If you have a question or a comment about this episode or any episode, don't hesitate to reach out by clicking on the Babble Me button right on the website. Love to hear what you think. That's all we've got for today, so until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.